Hi, I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And coming in October, Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater, a new series from IDW. Ask your comics retailer to set aside a copy for you. We're taking a look at the Fantastic Four #9. As it says at the top, the world's greatest comics magazine. And I feel 9 issues in, they've certainly earned that title. And we have the Fantastic Four evicted from their building, the Baxter Building. Looking at it in this oversized Taschen edition, I noticed for the first time that the windows of the Baxter Building are broken. Some of them are boarded up, some of them have broken glass, so that's new. And then just sort of a detail on the cover is that the Fantastic Four are kind of pariahs. They're having bricks thrown at them as they leave their building.
Heroes 1 minute, bums the next. How did it happen to us?
The end of the Fantastic Four. We have Namor watching TV. Bulletin, the world-famous Fantastic Four are bankrupt. They have announced plans to dissolve their partnership and sell all their possessions in order to pay their debts. What's that? The Fantastic Four are about to split up? Now isn't that mighty interesting? Interesting opening. Notice Sue Storm, the Invisible Girl. Her picture is in Namor's throne room. I can't say I've ever seen anything like this in a superhero comic prior to this. Jack Kirby and Joe Simon did a comic with a similar plot before, but other than that, I can't say I've seen this before. And now we're back at the Baxter Building. They're being hounded by creditors. What an interesting storyline. And there's sort of real world economics going on in the Fantastic Four. The thing about them being a non-profit, like what a thing to put in a kid's comic. And then the fact that they pay for all this stuff from the patents that Reed Richards holds for the various inventions that he makes as a member of the Fantastic Four. It's just like a new element added to superhero comics of sort of a fiscal reality. Reed is taking it really hard. Reed, don't take it so hard. It's all my fault, Sue. If only I hadn't bought those stocks with all our money. Then when the stock market went down, we lost it all. Heck, Reed, we can make more dough, can't we? Another fiscal reality, losing everything in the stock market. This is, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, who lived through the Depression. They were kids at the time, but they certainly saw how it affected their parents and just society around them. And there's a season of Downton Abbey that starts out exactly this way. So it does make me wonder if Julian Fellows is a Fantastic Four fan. It really is pretty much identical, that the patriarch of the Downton Abbey family, made some bad investments and lost it all. Having to sell the pogo plane and that these sort of repo men are going to dismantle it and crate it up. And this is too much of a pill for the thing to swallow. He starts, manhandling these guys, and it takes the rest of the team to calm him down. And a cabbie starts giving him a hard time. I heard how the 4 of you are flat broke. I don't want to be hung up for no taxi bill.
So, you don't want me for a passenger, huh? Well, I'm through taking guff from creeps like you.
Hey, let me down. No, stop. Help. Just amazing stuff. And he hangs up the cab really nicely on a lamppost. Again, this is kind of like, imagine Batman using the bat signal to hitch a lift or whatever. The Thing is shooting the Fantastic Four flare gun symbol, not because there's some new danger, but because he just needs a lift. A taxi won't take him. And so Johnny sees it and flies down with the Fantastic car. He goes to visit Alicia, who looks even more like Crystal in this episode, with sort of like a similar, black bands in her hair and a similar hairstyle. And she made a white knight for him because that's how she sees him. She sees him as a white knight, a good guy who's gonna, let me see, what does she say exactly? You are just like my white knight. You are good and kind, and you will never desert your friends when they need you most. Reed gets a telegram, a promise of $1 million cash to star in a Hollywood movie. Just as the Thing comes back, rejoins the team. There's a group hug. Johnny's not so thrilled about it, but they are back together. They're gonna get their fortune back, get all their pogo planes and things out of Hawk, and but how are they going to get from New York to Hollywood without any money? They hitch a lift. Just really, I mean, when people talk about, the Marvel formula being sort of mixing superheroes with reality, I mean, obviously it's a hyped up reality, it's a comedic reality, but it is these sort of, credible touches that just, we never saw before. And again, the length is so important that it plays off in the course of a book length novel. It's got the chapter breaks that were typical of comics and superhero comics of the time, little which were all made up of mini episodes. But this time the chapter breaks aren't to introduce a completely different story, but to give a shape to this ongoing plot that fills an entire comic book, which was not an everyday thing prior to this. And we get this great shot of S&M Studios. That should have been a clue as to what the Fantastic Four were in for. And we see some kind of cowboy. I don't recognize him. I don't know if that's supposed to be John Wayne. Doesn't really look like him to me. Alfred Hitchcock's there looking over some, murder weapon. And we have Bing Crosby and David Bowie, Bob Hope. We have Jackie Gleason doing a double take. And then that guy that Jackie Gleason's talking to looks a little like Dean Martin, but again, who knows? Could be anybody. Because he looks a little like Dino Manelli from the Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos, based on Dean Martin. And then they go into the office of Mr. Big, the guy who runs the studio, and they realize what the S and the M stand for in S&M Studios. It stands for Submariner. There he is, looking like John Barrymore with his smoking jacket and cigarette on a stick. And we get a little bit of a summing up of how Submariner got all this money to begin with. He's got the treasures of the seven seas. So you see, all the wealth of the sea is mine. And there's a cool little, pirate story going on. And so he's shelling out big bucks. So in addition to all his other superpowers, he's got the superpower of deep pockets, like Bruce Wayne, like Jay Gatsby in the upcoming Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater. Any problem can be solved with a great big pile of cash. Everybody's getting sort of a makeover. Reed's spending some of the money to get a nice new suit. Johnny bought himself a nice pair of wheels. And he's going off-roading, but he can create his own road with where we're going. We don't need roads. He can create his own roads with his flame power. The Thing goes to Muscle Beach, and you'd think he'd fit in there, but no such luck. Everybody's hamming it up, and he's having none of it. So he takes these guys and throws them into the ocean. And so the ongoing soap opera of the Fantastic Four, Sue and Namor are at dinner. And she's wondering, you're so generous. You're supposed to be our enemy. Why are you being so generous? I'll give you your answer after the picture is finished, Sue. We start filming soon. So the first scene involves Mr. Fantastic going from ship to this island. They're going to film it with telephoto lens. So they're going to be far away. But turns out it's a booby trap. And now we're getting a sense of what Submariner's up to. And really great page turn of the arrival of a Cyclops. I wonder if Jack's thinking of the seventh voyage of Sinbad when he's doing this. It doesn't look all that much like the Cyclops in the seventh voyage of Sinbad, but, maybe. We learned something that I don't know that I quite knew prior to this comic, was that Mr. Fantastic can stretch and all kinds of stuff. But if you drop a boulder on him, he won't die. He'll just get temporarily squashed. And I don't know that that's ever been sort of spelled out like that, in the first 100 issues of the Fantastic Four. But it's spelled out here. We get a really cool action sequence, and he gets a nice demonstration of powers. It's a little bit of a David and Goliath story, as Jack will, return to that motif again and again throughout his career. The Cyclops throws that same boulder he dropped on Mr. Fantastic at Mr. Fantastic, and he forms his own little slingshot to hurl it right back at the Cyclops. But that wasn't enough to stop the Cyclops, but it was enough to anger him. He comes running towards Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic stretches out his legs, trips him, and he falls into this bottomless pit. Really nice looking panel there of this creature falling into the blackness. Then we cut to the booby trap that Namor has set up for him. I feel like this is an instance where, looking at the visual story that's being told, there's like some spoilers going on, that there's some information that I feel like Jack was maybe withholding from the reader and was going to sort of spring at the right time as a surprise, where in the dialogue, which again, we don't know for sure who came up with what idea, who did what, but I'm assuming Stan was responsible for inserting this bit of dialogue that explains that these people are immune to fire. The story works a little better if you withhold that bit of information. So whoever's idea it was to give away that bit of information, whether it was Jack or Stan or both of them in agreement, Johnny's surrounded, he turns into flame, he's flying around, and nobody's terribly impressed with him and his powers. They imprison him, and then it's revealed visually, at least at this point, that the reason they have no fear of the Human Torch is because they are, fire eaters and fire walkers. They have the ability to walk on fire and to eat fire, and so a Human Torch isn't that big a deal to them. They're not terribly intimidated. But as Johnny says, I have a few little tricks of my own, and so he bursts out and then does this multiple torch move. I always like when Jack expands the power set of characters beyond what you think they might be capable of, and then he ignites a dormant volcano and causes all kinds of destruction. Seems a little bit of overkill, but Namor gets a spectacular scene for his Fantastic Four movie. And now things get a little bit personal. This time around, it's Namor challenging the Thing to a one-on-one fight, which again will be part of the movie, but Namor's not acting here. It's serious, and the Thing gets wise to it too, and he's not pulling any punches either. It would be interesting if they made a Fantastic Four movie, if this new Fantastic Four movie were actually the movie that Namor's filming here. So it has all of these scenes plus some, connective tissue in it. Be very meta. Part 5, Vengeance is Ours. So the Thing is using some strategy, pulling Namor away from the ocean, which is the source of Namor's power. And now the Thing has the advantage, but an act of God intervenes. He's struck by lightning, and it induces a transformation from Thing to Ben Grimm. And now he's taken out very easily with one punch from Namor. And if it's anything like the punches he was throwing at the Thing, it might kill a powerless Ben Grimm. And even though the Thing doesn't have like the power to change back and forth between Ben Grimm and the Thing form, it seems like it's been happening every issue. Some, quirk or some formula that Reed comes up with. So we do get a scene of transformation from Thing to Ben Grimm, or Ben Grimm to Thing. So even though it's not like something he can do on demand, like in the Thing Saturday morning cartoon, it is, still part of the formula in an interesting way, in a less predictable way. And now back at the offices of, it says SN Productions, Submariner Productions, but it's actually, little typo there. Sue is there in his office, and he reveals his plan. I have proven I am the master of the Fantastic Four. Now I'll give you the reason why I've done all this. Now that the others are out of the way, I want you to be my bride. You ask me that? Oh, you fool. Perhaps if you hadn't deceived us, if you had been honest with us, I might have answered you differently. So, showing that Sue, might say yes to Submariner asking her to marry him, but now I've got to prove you still haven't defeated the Fantastic Four, not while one of us remains to defy you. And so she goes invisible. He blocks the door to keep her from getting out and turns on his electric eel powers. And then it's revealed that he has another power. Here is a power you cannot combat, the radar sense of the cave fish from the lowest depths of the sea. They have no eyes, but they can sense the presence of others by using their radar-type instincts, as I shall do with you. And so, a few years later, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee will create Daredevil. There's that power, that power that Daredevil will have, that radar sense, and we even get a visualizing of it. So here is, an early form of that. We get to see, what the world looks like to the radar sense of the Submariner. The rest of the four bust in just in time. A huge fight is about to take place, but Sue gets in the middle of it. Stay back, all of you. Even if you think he is your enemy, it's 3 against 1. You've never ganged up on anyone before. Besides, we made a contract with Namor. We lived up to our part. We cooperated in his movie. Now he must live up to his part. The movie will be produced as promised. You will get your money. So also an interesting twist. He wasn't like, hey, fuck you, this was all a trick. He's got his own strange code of honor. He lives by a different code than we do. He can never really understand us, and whatever he did for love. So he is going to pay them, and he is putting out the movie. This is the first Fantastic Four movie happening within the continuity of the comic, and it's a triumph. They got their $1 million. Maybe they have a little back-end deal, but the Fantastic Four are back on top. All their having a hit movie, all their financial troubles are now, a thing of the past. And, maybe it's going to be like that in real life too with this new Fantastic Four movie. We get a little bonus feature again, a part 2 of the one started in the previous issue, where we see Johnny Storm's a demonstration of his powers and how he's able to fly, and how it's basically, when he's in his torch form, he's lighter than air. Another fun little bit, lots of fun to look at. I love when Kirby has, one of his heroes flying through a little obstacle course. And it's still a comic page, but it reads a little differently. It's just different enough to, add a little bit of variety. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And Godzilla's Monster Piece Theater, a new series from IDW Comics. The first issue is available in October. Ask your comics retailer to set aside a copy for you so you don't miss out. I'll see you next time for issue 10 of the Fantastic Four on Fantastic FOURiday.